Voyager and Mablard is in the top half of everyone's coaster manufacturer rankings, and they're the closest it gets to being a perfect manufacturer. B&M are known for making premium products and being one of the most well-rounded and reliable manufacturers out there. In today's video, we're going to take a deep dive into the history of this company and discuss why B&M is the most perfect coaster manufacturer. B&M's start is very interesting, so here's a really quick summary that is totally not sponsored by Wikipedia. So basically, there were these two dudes, Walter Bullinger and Claude Mablard. They worked at a lovely company called Gianovola. We could thank them for the absolute masterpiece of Goliath. You know, the one at Magic Mountain. Anyways, working at Gianovola, they supplied rides for Intamin and built a lot of connections across the industry. Gianovola underwent a change in management, and the two broskies weren't very satisfied with this, so they left and they formed Bullinger and Mablard. This company is named after their two last names, in case you didn't realize. The partners vowed to never work in the amusement industry again, but then Six Flags asked them to build a standing roller coaster, and what do? Well, they built a standing roller coaster. This ride opened as Iron Wolf in 1990 and now operates as Firebird today. After the somewhat success of Iron Wolf, Six Flags asked B&M to build a coaster at Great America, and we got blessed with the very first ever B&M invert, Batman. From here, B&M really took off and opened multiple coasters every year to this day. Already from this narrative, we can see the success of B&M. They started off incredibly strong and have not built a bad coaster, at least for the time. Comparing B&M's first few coasters to modern standards is a bit hard, but it's by far the most consistently good manufacturer out there, and that is the closest you can come to perfect. If every single ride in your catalog is a quality addition, then wow, you are really doing something right. Even leading manufacturers like Intamin have made god-awful rides such as Green Lantern. B&M and RMC are the closest that you get to pure quality across the board. Now, what led to this immediate success of B&M? Well, it comes down to a plethora of reasons. The biggest thing is these two guys came from the industry. They had the advantage of working with Intamin and Gianovola and discovering what really works. This experience in the industry allowed them to create the best coaster right from the start. B&M track is super unique to their company, and it's inspired by and refined off their time at Gianovola. Since the creation of the company and their first ever built roller coaster, B&M track has remained largely unchanged. The fact that they had a formula to success and already had the connections built was why B&M came out so hot. Another reason for their success can be attributed to their innovative models. At the time, standing coasters were the new thing, and B&M outcompeted both Intamin and Togo on this market. They were able to achieve success on the quality product they delivered right from the start for the reasons I stated above before. And then they dropped the B&M invert, which was revolutionary. B&M was not the first to put a coaster train under the track, Aero was, but B&M did it in a way that no one has ever seen before. It was a complete curveball to the industry and changed the way coasters worked forever. B&M's inverted coaster was able to invert and provide insanely intense forces, and it did all of this with an open floor, creating one of the most crazy experiences on the planet at that time. The B&M invert was the primetime coaster and nothing could beat it. Even today, this is arguably the best extreme invert model. B&M went on to build a bunch of these while mixing in a few standing coasters, and from here, well, the rest is history. So now, why is B&M perfect? Well, we already brought up the point that they haven't missed with a single addition. But do they build good coasters? Well, good is completely subjective. B&M was so successful in part due to their unique models. B&M has checked every box in terms of what models were popular. They built the first invert and the first floorless coaster, and even models that were obtaining traction, B&M jumped in on them and expanded on it, as seen in the B&M Flyer and the Wing Coaster. It's hard to attribute B&M to being innovative because they play everything extremely safe, but back in the day they took a bunch of risks and it worked out for them. Nowadays it's hard to think of them this way, but they still do provide world-class additions. Anyways, the models that B&M built, besides being incredibly unique, ride really well. The B&M Flyer is the best iteration of a flying coaster. The invert is the best for an invert. The Wing, the best for a wing coaster. The Surf, the best for the stand-up. The Hyper, best for the hypers, even over Intamin and Mach. They dominate the market in these categories. While some of these rides are a little outdated and are becoming supporting cast coasters, they all have a general quality that we can thank B&M for. One quick thing to point out is that B&M is kind of jumping back into the game by providing new experiences. Thunderbird, which was built in 2015, was the first step in using a launch mechanism. In 2023, B&M built both Mandrill Mayhem and Pipeline, which use LSMs. Next year, Penguin Trek is going to incorporate launches as well. I think B&M is starting to follow the trend of the industry after avoiding it for a long time. They also are jumping in on the construction of family coasters with Phoenix Rising as well as Penguin Trek. Their LSMs seem to be pretty reliable and decently forceful, so maybe soon we will see a B&M multi-launch coaster that is airtime focused, but maybe that is a pipe dream. I mean, Pipeline was the most interesting thing to open up in 2023. To call B&M not innovative is just not true these days. All I'm trying to say is that B&M, which may look to be lagging behind in the industry, is always taking steps forward even if it seems like they are not. The crazy thing is, since the creation of this company, all of their coasters are pretty much still operating. If you ignore the SB&O coasters, which are mainly thanks to China, there are only 2 defunct coasters. There's Dragon Challenge, which was removed for Hagrid's, and there's Lightning, which is sitting somewhere in the world right now. There also has been a few scares with China only allowing them to operate their coasters for a maximum of 25 years, but I'm not really up to date on this news, so I won't comment here. If this is not a nod to perfection, I don't know what is. B&M over the course of their entire history have built a little over 100 coasters, and out of all of these, only 2 of them are defunct, with some coasters being over 30 years old. The best part is, these 30 years old are still pretty healthy, so it's going to be interesting to see how long they really last. It is pretty obvious that B&M has perfected quality. The only other manufacturers who are this crazy reliable is Aero, though we will see companies like RMC stand the test of time as well, but B&M is pretty much unrivaled in this category. The huge thing about B&M that most people love isn't even part of the ride experience. They are just purely reliable. So let's talk about safety. B&M has not had an accident in the history of its company. If you want to, you can point at people getting hit by inverts, but that was because they broke policies and hopped the fence into a restricted area, not because the engineering failed. B&M is one of the few manufacturers with perfect track records, unlike Intamin, which has killed a handful of people, and Schwarzkopf, which has a coaster derail every other year. Just note, B&M is incredibly safe. A lot of you guys can also point to the crack in Fury 325 that happened last year, but besides from maintenance not noticing it earlier on, the whole situation was tackled very responsibly, and it shows the over-engineering of theme park rides that make it safe for everyone. The other side of reliability is that these coasters seem to never break down. If you go to parks, the B&Ms are the most likely coasters to have consistent uptime. I am sure I could try to prove this with statistics if I had more time, but just trust me, B&M is one of the most reliable manufacturers. These rides are just engineered extremely well. So already because of reliability, parks love them. I mean, who wants a maintenance nightmare? That's why B&M is so attractive. It avoids all risk associated with operating a massive machine. But guess what? There are even more aspects that make B&M so attractive to parks specifically. One of these things is high capacity. B&M coasters have insane capacity. They are called people eaters for a reason. They will absolutely devour a long ride and have some of the best seating arrangements on the planet. All of their old coasters are 4-across, which allow for really high capacity, and even Pipeline, which is the first 2-across train, is able to eat through people because of its increased train length and faster loading times. I mean, it's a win-win for the parks and the guests. Faster lines, happier people. I mean, who does not like this? It's no wonder that B&M is the favorite manufacturer among parks. The last thing that makes them so attractive are B&Ms are incredibly cheap to operate. Believe it or not, once you buy a coaster, it still costs an insane amount of money to operate them, and the cost isn't actually in staffing, it's in maintenance. When you go to a Six Flags park, the main reason they choose to run one train is so they only have to do maintenance on that one train. 2 train ops don't require any more staff members than 1 train ops in most circumstances. Unless there's an unload station being added or a necessity to load trains faster, 1 and 2 train ops require the same amount of staff. The difference is formed from the maintenance costs, and B&M has some of the cheapest maintenance out there. I can't dive into numbers here because parks don't publicly waive how much they spend to operate a ride, but it's definitely a good chunk of money. I found this Coaster Buzz forum where some way smarter people than me used energy rates to calculate how much it would theoretically cost to operate King to Claw every day, and it totals to around $1,400, but that does not count wheels that need to be replaced or any other contributing factors. B&M parts are also largely interchangeable with each other, so you could borrow parts from one coaster to add to another, which makes buying more of them cheaper over time. Anyways, B&M are crazy reliable and cheap to operate, so who does not like that? Before we get into the rest of the video, here is a quick plug to join the Discord. I like talking to all of you out there, and even if you want to talk smack straight to my face, I want you there, because it's fun to talk to everyone. So just join the Discord, link in the description. Okay, so far we have heard all the good things about B&M that make them essentially perfect, but all these perks had to come with some cost. And it's a big cost, literally. Essentially, if a park is buying a B&M coaster, they are paying a premium for the unmatched reliability. In many parks' eyes, it's a well-worthy investment, but a lot of smaller parks simply can't afford to add new B&Ms every 5 years. They're just too expensive. For the same price of a B&M dive coaster, you can get a ground-up RMC that would rival the best coaster in the world, but RMCs aren't exactly the most reliable machines ever, so price is definitely one drawback of B&M. The other drawback is the lack of variety. B&M finds a formula to success and sticks with it for all their models. Dive coasters use drops, immelmans, and more drops. Flying coasters use graceful turns and intense pretzel loops. Inverts use drop, loop, immelman, and zero-G rolls. Because B&M sticks to the same thing for their models, they get a lot of complaints about this. I don't think they are valid though, because I'm gonna be honest, all RMCs feel the same, but no one is complaining about that. B&M coasters are just a little outdated and less insane, but they follow the same construction principles as RMC, so I don't think they deserve hate for that. I also think B&M has a super diverse catalog of models in the first place, so their repetition is broken up by model types, making it even less of a complaint than it should be, so stop complaining that B&M is repetitive, because every other manufacturer is too. In conclusion, B&M is the closest manufacturer to being perfect. They have earned their reputation for being the most reliable and consistent manufacturers in the entire industry. Right from the start, Walter Bullinger and Claude Mallard were able to craft perfection and change the way the entire amusement industry functioned. Overall, B&M remains a symbol of perfection and reliability that has inevitably stood the test of time. That's all for today's video, guys. As always, make sure to like and subscribe, join the Discord, link in the description. I'll see you in the next one. Have a great rest of your day. Goodbye.